Hello, today we're going to talk about nutrient cycling. Elements must be recycled within the environment. There's a finite amount of each, and it's needed to sustain life. So during the recycling or cycling process, elements pass back and forth between the biotic and abiotic environments. Producers usually introduce the elements into the biotic environment by incorporating them into their organic compounds, and then they pass through with the food chains. So consumers and decomposers release the elements back into the environment by breaking down complex organic molecules into simple inorganic forms. So very, very important. Importance of nutrient cycles: it can prevent waste, which could cause problems from accumulating, and it ensures that the ecosystem will not run out of the essential elements. We're going to talk about a couple of different types of cycles. We're going to talk about the carbon cycle, phosphorus cycle, nitrogen cycle, and the water cycle. So the first thing is the carbon cycle. Pretty much we need to start off with a reservoir of carbon dioxide molecules. Carbon dioxide is going to be present in the air and in the water. Okay, so through photosynthesis, okay, and further metabolism, carbon atoms from carbon dioxide become part of the organic molecules making up a plant. So we're going to go through photosynthesis. We're going to making those carbohydrates. Okay. Now, food chains are going to occur. The carbon atoms are going to move into and become part of the tissues of all the other organisms in the ecosystem. Okay. Now, carbon can be passed to another organism or be broken down by cell respiration. Okay. Now, carbon atoms, again, are going to be released back into the environment. Okay, so this is just a little overview. Now, burning organic material is going to return carbon atoms back into the air also. Okay. And just to give you a little fun fact, on average, a carbon atom makes a cycle from the atmosphere through one or more living things and back to the atmosphere every 3 years. Again, just another picture to kind of sum that up. Now, fossil fuels are formed when there's a buildup of deposits of non-decaying organic material, and that is going to produce a carbon reservoir. Most fossil fuels were formed 385 million years ago. Okay, so that is very important to know. Again, this is just another picture depicting the carbon cycle. Okay, the next thing is the phosphorus cycle. We need phosphorus to make ATP, DNA, RNA, and our cell membranes. All right, so phosphorus is going to exist in rock and soil. Okay, and that's going to be an inorganic ion phosphate. All right, so as the rock gradually breaks down, phosphate and other ions are released. Okay, phosphate will dissolve in water but does not enter the air. So plants absorb the phosphate from the soil or from the water solution. And when it is bonded into the organic compounds by the plant, we call it organic phosphate. So this moves through the food chain. Organic phosphate is transferred from producers to the rest of the ecosystem. And then it is released in inorganic phosphate in the urine or other waste. Okay? And then it can be reabsorbed by the plants to start another cycle. All right, so I just want to point out that phosphate does not have a gas phase. It is only recycled if the waste containing it are deposited on the soil from which it came from. Okay, and naturally urine, waste, detritus is deposited in the same area, so recycling does occur quite efficiently. However, humans like us have been extremely prone to interrupt this cycle, okay, especially when we cut down the tropical rainforest. So this is just showing you a picture of the phosphorus cycle. And again, if we add too much phosphorus into the water, that leads to eutrophication, which is very harmful. Our next cycle is called the nitrogen cycle. So first off, we need to talk about nitrogen fixation. It's very unique because the main reservoir for nitrogen is in the air. It's about 79% nitrogen gas. And that originally came from the lightning strikes and meteor impacts. However, plants cannot utilize this nitrogen gas directly from the air. Okay? It has to be transferred into a mineral form like ammonium or nitrate. Okay? So it has to be kind of fixated in order to be used. So there's a number of bacteria and cyanobacteria that can convert that nitrogen gas in the atmosphere to the ammonium form. Okay, and this is called biological nitrogen fixation. All right, so the nitrogen fixation occurs. There's about 100 to 200 different species of nitrogen fixers that will help convert the atmospheric nitrogen gas into ammonia. Okay, then, all right, that is done by the bacteria that live on legumes. All right, then it gets taken in, okay, and the plants can absorb it, and then it is gone through the food chain. Producers are eating, transferring the nitrogen to consumers, decomposers, and so forth. And then we go through cell respiration. Decomposers convert it into inorganic ammonia, which is released as urea. The cycle will continue. Okay, so nitrogen compounds are returned to the soil with the excrement and may be absorbed by other plants. Again, completing that. All right, this one important thing, nitrogen fixers rely on an enzyme that's going to help break the bond between those two nitrogen atoms to convert it into the one nitrogen gas into ammonia. Okay, so just kind of showing you a little bit about that. Okay, and again, it needs the bacteria from the legumes in order to convert the bacteria. There's a term called denitrification. This is when nitrogen is converted to nitrogen gas by other bacteria called denitrifying bacteria. Okay, it kind of closes the loop. Okay, the denitrifying bacteria feeds on the nitrate for oxygen that it contains. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the water cycle. Water is very precious. Okay, so you can see that the majority of the water is in oceans, and there's very little that is available to us. Okay, so it's often called the hydrologic cycle. Okay, and it consists of evaporation, transpiration, condensation, and precipitation. Evaporation occurs when water molecules break bonds and enter the atmosphere as gas, as water vapor. Okay, condensation is when water molecules rejoin by hydrogen bonding to form liquid water or ice, and that's pretty much when the relative humidity reaches about 100%. Precipitation, as the air rises, cooling and condensation occur, which results in precipitation. As the rain or the precipitation hits the ground, it can either be runoff or it can soak into the ground. Okay, so if you guys have any questions about any of these cycles, please see me tomorrow in class, but we will do a bunch of review activities on this. Thanks.